Trump's big, beautiful bill limping across the Senate finish line earlier today. It took J.D. Vance to break a 50-50 tie after 3 Republican defections. Tom Tillis and Susan Collins voting no because the bill doesn't spend enough. Rand Paul because it spends too much. And for all the shame that Rand Paul has taken, he is not wrong. For fiscal hawks, the bill could have been better, but at the same time, at some point, the most virtuous conservatives do need to kind of get real with the situation in Washington. The fact that Congress does have a uniparty, and that uniparty is a super majority in Congress. And that uniparty doesn't care about deficits and debt and simply won't be deterred in its quest to grow government like a malignant tumor. That is the reality of Washington. It's not Trump's fault this bill isn't better. It's not Rand Paul's fault or any Republican. It's a greater fault, and that is Congress. The vice president posting today, I've seen many criticisms of this bill, and most of them fail a very basic test. Could those criticisms get 50 votes? As the president told me earlier today, for a good idea to become policy, it has to have the votes. Without the votes, it's a useless idea on a piece of paper. And here's Rand Paul with some of those criticisms right now.
In deciding whether to vote for the big, not-so-beautiful bill, I've asked a very specific question. Will the deficit be more or less next year? The answer, without question, is this bill will grow the deficit. To me, the most pertinent question is how will the bill affect the deficit in the next year? The deficit in 2026 will still be $270 billion more than this year.
So we've been hearing that from Rand Paul for a few weeks now. He said it on this show. He's not wrong from what we can see, although the White House does contend that explosive GDP growth, which Trump does bring, will chip away at whatever deficits are created. Bigger growth, if you raise GDP by a point, you get like $1 trillion more, right? But regardless, this big bill is spendy enough to make debt-obsessed fiscal hawks cringe. That has been the problem for the last few weeks. That doesn't make it a bad bill, though. It's as trim as Rand Paul's colleagues will allow it to be. So tight that John Thune had to give set-asides to fake Republican Lisa Murkowski, and we needed the vice president to come over to break the tie and pass it. That's how tight this was. They got it as good as they could get it to get it through. You remember how much Trump hates the government, right? He's been in the private sector his whole life. Do you really think he wanted this to be a budget buster? Do you think he wants to just explode more deficits, create more inflation? Do you think that's his agenda? You've known him for 9 years. It's the only option on the table. It's this, what passed today, or his agenda, his entire agenda fails. Those are the options. At the end of the day, the bill funds deportations, it funds the wall's completion, it keeps taxes low and drops some taxes even lower. And Republicans say it is going to cut waste in government, which of course is why Democrats are so furious.
This is a tragedy of a bill, a shameful bill, a selfish bill.
So this is a very bad day for the United States Senate. It's a very bad day for the country.
This bill is bad. It's bad economically. It's bad morally.
I am shaking with fury over what just happened. That's the most monstrous piece of legislation I've ever voted on in my time in Congress.
Because of this bill, tens of millions will lose health insurance. Millions of jobs will disappear. People will get sick and die.
If the goons that have destroyed the value of your paycheck and the value of your dollar are angry about this bill, it's probably a good thing. Senator Ron Johnson was one of the fiscal hawks out there, much like Chip Roy and Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, working to make the bill better. Here's his take on it. By passing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, we have avoided a $4 trillion automatic tax increase and a default on our debt. Due to the enormous messes Biden and congressional Democrats left us, we are also providing additional funding for border security and defense. While the bill is a step forward, we have only just begun the difficult process of reducing spending, and there is still a long way to go. And there you have it. This isn't good enough, but it's moving in the right direction. We've been through hell for the last 4 years, and you have to spend a lot of money to get out of hell. And then there was this moment. After Republicans seemed to bend over backwards to woo one of the worst senators in the country, Alaska's Lisa Murkowski, Murkowski finally voted for a bill that she later said she hated, right after she voted for it. Now, she was worried about food stamps, of all things. Yes, a Republican. And held the bill hostage until she got her way. An aide for Rand Paul saying tonight, instead of making the same decision to cut spending and do what the American people want, they found it easier to throw money into Alaska to get the bill across. And however that negotiation went, they thought this is the easiest way to get this thing done. And maybe if they went Rand's direction, they would have lost more votes and it wouldn't have worked. So not sure that's a fair criticism of it, but that's what went down today. They basically had to grease Murkowski to get it through. Collins said no. Murkowski finally came around and said yes, and then said she hated it. An NBC reporter today asked Lisa Murkowski about that comment from Rand Paul. And this moment is wild. Take a look.
Senator Paul said that that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country.
Oh, my God.
That's what Senator Paul said.
The question was easy.
Senator, we've got the...
I didn't say it, ma'am. I'm just asking for your response.
My response is I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska, and I live up to that every single day.
Have you seen a weirder moment than that? Rand Paul called her out, and she had to stare at that reporter for 10 seconds and feign outrage and offense to try and figure out a way to wiggle out of it. That's exactly what she did. Claiming she was offended, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins are a huge part of the problem and are a big part of the reason why this catastrophic trend in Washington of spending 30% more than we make every year won't stop, won't end. Why your kids' futures are being mortgaged to pay for the food stamps and Medicaid programs of today. Ask Collins and Murkowski, the fake Republicans that really shore up that nasty uniparty that will never, ever let this country spend anywhere close to what it brings in ever again, at least by our estimation. You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt tonight on Newsmax.